and it should be recording. So if there's anything anybody else does, so what questions you might have?
I was gonna ask, like, for the lesson, did we just watch those videos that you posted?
Yeah, you can watch those videos that I've posted. If there's anything I've missed or that you want me to do an additional video on, you can do that. And then these sessions would be sort of at live where we can go in and back and forth. I can answer the questions you may have and all that way. And if there's anything that's confusing for folks, I think the videos that are posted now cover most everything. There may be a couple of other things that I need to do a little more detail on.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to do, and I'll go ahead and do it today. Oh, any other questions?
So all we have for the rest of the semester is like the rest of the videos.
Those videos, I'll go back and double check and make sure I've not missed anything, but that's pretty much it. I will post some additional videos. I'm recording a few more to go into more detail on a few things, but most of those are really the rest of the semester. And there might be a couple of things right at the end, those last few videos, that we're just not going to get to.
Okay. How about exam and stuff? How are we gonna do those?
Well, we're probably just going to do them from home. My Python class had not done their midterm because they had missing one class for them was missing a week, and they'd missed a week when Leela had her surgery. So what I did with them was I put the questions in a quiz, and so that I was able to time it that way, and they went in, wrote it, and just copied their programs into the quiz part, and that seemed to work, the timing. Obviously, I can ask you not to use any third-party resources and all, but there's not a good way of making sure you don't. I just trust you all.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's all.
Okay. Now, the last thing we did before we broke was, well, we looked at the formatting, but the last thing with for loops is I did a for loop where we went through and did squares and cubes and print out the output. Were there any questions you had on for loops?
No, not yet, at least.
Not yet. Well, the one thing I had not gotten to on for loops was nested for loops, and that's a for loop inside of a for loop. And I think there's at least one assignment that requires that. So let me just quickly take a look at that.
Okay.
You can see my screen, okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making sure that I shared it properly. What I've got right now is just a single for loop, and it's going to go for starting I need to set it equal to 1. I equal 1 up to the size I put, and I just started with 5. And all it's going to do right now is print asterisks. So if I run it, it's just going to print asterisks across. Well, no, it's not going to, because I've got an error, and let's see. I've got a semicolon. Oh. And it's just going to print those asterisks all in the same row because I didn't do that indel. Well, what I want to do is I want to print a pyramid, and I'm looking for my whiteboard icon, and I'm not seeing it. Okay, where is my whiteboard icon? No. Okay, let me use my other whiteboard. Zoom has a built-in whiteboard, but let me use this one. And what I want to do is we want to build, say, start with, I'll just use X's, but asterisks, extras, whatever character, something like this. And this is a good way to see what's happening when you've got a loop inside of a loop. And so on the first row, we'll print 1 asterisk, second row 2, third row 3, and so on.
No.
So because we're going to have the 5 rows, this outside loop is going to control the rows. The inside loop will control printing the asterisks. So I need to go and add another for loop. Why I created that variable j. For j equal, started at 1. And I'm going to have j, in this case, less than or equal to I. And the first time through the outside loop, remember I is 1. So the first time through it would be for j starting at 1 and going to 1. And then I'll add 1 to j each time.
Okay.
And then inside that loop, that's when I'm going to print my asterisks. So again, open my curly brackets. And then I wiped out my C out, but that's okay. I can retype it. And so I'm going to C out just an asterisk. And each time it goes through the loop, the first time when I is 1, it's going to go through this loop 1 time and print 1 asterisk. When I is 2, when I go through that outer for loop, it'll go 1 and 2, and so should print 2 asterisks. And then 3, 4, and 5. Now, if I run it now, it's not going to be right. All the asterisks are going to be on the same line. Well, what did I leave out? Missing semicolon again.
I think for CL.
Oh, there.
Oh, no, never mind.
There,
oh.
I did a comma instead of a semicolon on the for loop. I've been accused of a lot of things, but never been accused of being a typist. Uh-oh. Something I did wrong because it's just doing an infinite loop. So I must have typed something wrong in there. And let's see what I did. For j equal 1, oh, I'm incrementing I instead of j in this inside loop. I should be adding 1 to I by incrementing j always stayed at 1, so it just kept going through the loop. It's a little slower compiling with doing the live stream. And you see all the asterisks are on the same row. That's because we've got an indle anywhere. But where would we put an indle? Well, if we put it on this line inside this inside loop, every asterisk is going to be on a different row. So once we get out of this inner loop, that's when we need to do your new line. And so the first time through, it goes through and does 1 asterisk, then comes out to this loop and does a return. What were you about to say?
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can see it does the 1 asterisk, then 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if we want to see a little better what's going on, there's something that we usually cover right when we get back from spring break. I tried covering it 1 year right at the beginning and it confused people, but there's something called debugging that you can do, and debugging allows you to step through the program one step at a time and watch what's happening. So in order to debug, I can go over in this left margin and find a line and just click, and a little red dot goes there. If I click again on the dot, it goes away. Or I can right click on the line and click the breakpoint, and this time I'm on a line that has one, so I could delete that, or I could add one if it didn't have it. Let me click on this line, right click breakpoint, and I can insert one, and a breakpoint says run the program until you get to that position, that place, and then just stop so you can see what's going on. And so when I run it now, I didn't want to run it, I want to do the debug, so up to the debug menu and just F5, or just start debugging. Otherwise you can hit just F5.
Yeah.
And now it has opened it up, and what we're at right now is it's not printed any asterisk. Over here on the left, I know you can't probably see it in the that well, but over here on the left, the red dot has changed its shape a little. It says this is where it's paused. It's paused at that point. Down here in the bottom, this is where I really like it. You can see what the values of the variables are. And I know that's hard to see because the type is so small, but it says I is 1, J is 1, and size is 5. Those are my 3 variables.
Okay.
You can go up to the debug menu and hit continue, or the shortcut, and this is what I do, is the F5 function key. Now it goes to the next breakpoint. The next breakpoint I put in was this C out. If I look at the output, it printed the first asterisk. So it went through this for loop just one time in this case, printed a single asterisk. Now notice that J is 2. Well, it did the J1, printed the single asterisk. Now, then added 1 to J, so J became 2. So this condition was now false. J was no longer less than or equal to I, so it exited out and came down to this point, this C out. Hit the F5 again, comes back up to this one. Now I is 2, but J is back to 1 because we did the I, we added 1 to I, we came down and we entered this inside for loop a second time. So we started it over, so we had our J as 2, and as we step through it, it's going to print the first asterisk, and then it's gone into the loop. Now J is 2, so it went back into this loop. Now it printed the second asterisk and moved down to this C out. It exited this inner loop and now back to the outer loop. And if I hit F5 again, it's going to keep doing that until I get to the end. I'm going to hit it several times. And now I is 5. So, and I've gone through where it has printed J is 2, so it's printed the first asterisk on the last line. And if I hit it a couple of times, it is just staying in this inside loop, printing asterisks. Now it's printing the 4th one. Hit it again, it printed the 5th one. J became 6, so it exited down to this C out. And now it's done my little triangle. I is 5 now, so I is going to become 6. That's bigger than size, and since it's bigger than size, it'll exit all the way out down to the after the loop message.
Okay.
And so now it's just before that one. So you can see for every time it went through this outside loop, it went through the inside loop a couple of 1 to 5 times, depending on what i's value was. Okay.
Gotcha.
Any questions on that one?
I think I'm good.
All right. Let me save this, and I'm going to make one more change to it. And then if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and break.
Okay.
With that one, actually, I need to finish it out. There we go. With that one, we went through, of course, I could tell you too, if I change that to say 10 before we go on, and I'm not going to debug it, I'm just going to run it. We ended up getting the bigger pyramid. So depending on what that size is, will be the pyramid size.
Cool.
If I wanted to do, instead of this shape, let's say I wanted to do a shape where I spaced over and then did one, and then each time space over less and add one. What I have to do is add a third loop. It won't be nested inside of the J loop. Right now, I've got my I loop here, and then nested inside of it is the for loop, the J for loop rather. Now, to do the spaces, and the way I had this, the spaces are before the asterisks. So I actually need another loop, and I'm going to create another variable, K. I could actually use J over because this is going to be before the J loop. I want to print spaces. The spaces are before the asterisk, so I would put it before. So for K equal something, I'm going to put a question mark here in a minute. We'll talk about it. Then K, I'm going to say less than or equal to something. We're going to figure that out. And then K plus plus, we may end up subtracting. There's a couple of ways of doing it. Notice it's on the same level where I indented it. It is not, you do go into the I loop. We're going to do the K for loop and then the J for loop. What I need to do here is print a space. So I can do that by doing just a blank space in quotes, but I don't want to go to a new line, so I won't put the endl. Now, the first time through, I'm going to do one asterisk, so I need to do 4 spaces. And, or, well, let me change size back to 5. If size is 5, I need to do 4 spaces and 1 asterisk. Well, if I start here, K at size, it starts at 5. And we'll see if that works. And I need it, in this case, if I'm starting up to the 5 and going to work my way down to 4, 3, 2, I want K to be less than or equal to probably 1, or it might be 0, we'll see, but let's try 1. And I need to subtract 1 from K each time. Well, problem is if I do that, it's always going to do 5 spaces because the size is always 5. So that probably isn't going to work. So
can we do the formatting for the C out, like for, you know, like how the last time you taught us in class?
You could probably do it that way as well, where you do a format based on some some math. That would actually work. And I could actually get rid of this loop here if I could figure out the numbering on it. But I want you to see how to do it with the 2 loops.
Oh, I gotcha.
Well, if I start there, the size, but what if I do the size minus I, because I is going to be 1 the first time through. And so the first time through, it would be 5 minus 1. So K would start out at 4.
Yeah.
And so let's see what that does. So I'm going to just run it the first time. And then we'll maybe look at the debugging. And uh-oh, got a problem again. There we go. Okay, so K, size minus I, it kept in there. K, oh, I said K less than 1. Uh-oh, I want to do K while K is greater than 1. Talking, I changed that. When I changed it to going down, I should have changed that out. Okay, and it looks like we got it. And if we look at what's happening when I is 1 the first time through this outside loop, size is 5, I is 1, so this becomes 4, and it's going to go through and do 4 spaces. Because it'll go through the K loop 4 times. Then we already know it'll go through the I loop, or J loop rather, once, because I is 1. Then it comes back up, I becomes 2. So this K loop goes 5 minus 2, which would be 3. So it would end up going through 3 times. Then the J loop twice. And so by adjusting these parameters, I can get the right number of times through each loop. Now, that's not the only way. I could have started K at 1 and made changes in the way I changed the value of K each time. So there are different ways you do it, but this is one way that would work. And I think there's one assignment that you're going to do something like this, except what you do is, I think you start at 5.
Okay.
And you're going to add the spaces at the end. So it's still going to be almost like the one we just did, and I just did an extra asterisk. Did I? I did the extra asterisk here. and just add more spaces each time. So it's going to be almost the same as this one, just manipulating where you're printing the spaces. Okay. So any questions on that one?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. And I will post these two up on the in D2L so that you'll have them.
Okay.
If you run into any questions, and I'll go ahead and either shoot me an email, or if it's a general question you think others might have, post it in the discussion board in D2L.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And if you don't have any other questions, then we'll go ahead and stop here.
Okay. All right. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.